Welcome to A.U.M. We are live, and I'm your host, Callie Fedosinko of Callie Collective, a digital marketing agency designed to build relationships between financial advisors and their target audience through data-driven custom content, websites, and advertising. Our episode today is brought to you by the Financial Planning Association, otherwise known as the FPA. The FPA is a great resource center providing education, support, and networking opportunities for financial advisors like you. And in case you didn't know, they've got a retreat this May. Let me pull that up. We've got a retreat this May in Tucson, Arizona that you'll want to check out. And today is your last chance to register. So make sure you click that QR code. Now, to our episode. Have you wondered if it actually matters if you're using client portal or assessments or calculators with your clients and on your sites? Like, do your clients actually care? Is it worth your time and investment? Well, ponder no more. Today we're talking with Connor Sung and Emily Kuchel of eMoney about a research report they conducted in tandem with the FPA about, you guessed it, how client relationships are affected by financial technology. So welcome, Emily and Connor. We're so excited to have you.
Thank you.
Good to be here.
Okay. So first, I'd love if you'd both tell our audience a little bit about what your role is at eMoney, and then we'll dive into the research you've done in fintech tips.
That sounds
great.
Emily.
Oh, I was going to ask you. So my name is Dr. Emily Kushel. I'm the manager of financial wellness here at eMoney Advisor, where I have the opportunity to lead our team for all things internal and external wellness related, as well as our financial wellness research initiatives, and work very closely with Connor and his team.
And I'm Connor Sung. I'm a director in eMoney's financial planning group. I manage our practice management offerings. So as you think about efficient and effective use of the tech, best practices, kind of how to put all of the different pieces of technology and financial planning into some scalably delivered advice from us, the service side of the software company.
Oh, amazing. So we're on the screen here with two very smart people. So make sure as we're going through, if you've got questions, go ahead and put them in the chat and we'll see them on our end. And we'll put them up on the screen and ask Emily and Connor. So before I dig in, I do want to address for the analytical viewers who are joining us, wondering how can we trust this report if it's produced by a fintech company, which I'm sure that you have a rebuttal. So Emily, could you give us a little rundown on how this information was gathered and kept bias-free?
Great question. Completely agree. And for the inquisitive minds wondering, of course, want to address. So when we actually conduct this study, we did it in part with the Financial Planning Association. We also generally work with a third-party vendor who helps us get out to the market at large. So this study is of about 850 financial advisors, and we're going to be looking at financial technology as well as financial psychology actions. When we talk about financial technology in this study, we're going to be asking about a client portal or a client website. However, this is going to be technology agnostic, if you will. So we're not asking about the eMoney client portal or website. We're actually just getting a pulse on the market and advisors with the use of financial technology that is a client portal or is a client website. And we give a brief definition of what that is inside of the research. So it is unbiased. It is not necessarily related to eMoney technology specifically, although we can segment the data on the back end to do that. Our general report is going to be that this is just about the technology of a client portal.
Love that. So we're safe.
We're safe.
So now that that's out of the way, okay, first I'm gonna say I didn't realize it was about websites too, and so that's really exciting for me since I do websites. But let's talk about the results. So what were the findings from this?
So just kind of overview of what we did here. So we're looking at financial technology and financial psychology. We're going to actually segment the sample here. We're going to look at those that are going to be what we consider fintech averse, so they're not using a client portal or client website, all the way to those that are considered tech forward. So they're using it, they're actively using it, their clients are actively using it, as well as financial psychology and a similar segmentation, which says you are either
Mhm.
FinPsych averse, meaning you
Yeah.
don't believe in financial psychology or don't believe that
Mm.
it's important generally. And then those that are using 6 actions, 8 actions was around the average that we saw here. So they believe it's important and they're using it.
Mm.
What's cool here is we look at outcomes that are particularly important to the financial planning experience and process. So client satisfaction, motivation, loyalty, referrals, etc.
Yeah.
What we see here is that those that are fintech forward as well as finpsych forward have the greatest outcomes, the greatest lift on those outcomes when we look at client
Mm.
satisfaction, motivation, loyalty, referrals. And we can get individual bumps if we're using just fintech or if we're, finpsych forward,
Mm.
but it's really the combination of the two. And there's a really incredible opportunity here because about only 17% of those that we sampled are considered finpsych and fintech forward,
Hmm.
getting the biggest bang for their buck.
Right. So that's like leaving 80+% of people who have opportunity.
Absolutely. A great opportunity here and just a great time to raise some awareness around how you can use technology to have deeper conversations and utilize financial psychology, which for some that's still very new and kind of an emerging topic. But these results really point to if we combine these two, we're getting a whole lot of outcome
Mm.
for the clients and the client experience.
Yeah. So when you're surveying, are you surveying the advisors in their opinion, or are you surveying the advisors' clients?
Good question.
Yeah.
So the way that we do it is we're going to ask the advisors their perception of what they
Mm.
believe their clients are getting.
Hmm.
But we know that there can be discrepancies when we just look at the advisor perception. And we see this in terms of financial wellness and the client experience and those types of things. So what we do is we also go to clients. Now, they're
Mm.
not going to be paired. It's not the clients of that particular advisor
I
because that
see.
gets a little
Right.
privacy. We got to be careful there. But we do go out to clients and say, hey, what would you like your advisor to be doing? What would you like this experience to be? And we can run essentially just a gap analysis that says, hey, this is what advisors generally perceive
Mm.
as being helpful. This is what clients perceive as being helpful. And we can find the opportunity in between the two.
I love that. Okay, so something else you said was financial psychology. Do you believe in financial psychology? What is financial psychology?
So, keeping it a little high level, think of financial psychology as the why you do what you do with money.
Mm.
This is the emotional side, the behavioral side of money. It's going to be a little uniquely different than behavioral finance, which those that are out there and reading
Mm.
about this, you've probably heard behavioral finance
Yeah.
before. It's gonna be a little bit different. This is going to be the interpersonal part of
Mm.
money. So, not necessarily specifically with portfolio analysis and why people are making investment decisions. This is the how and why of who Emily is, who Connor is,
Mm.
who Callie is, which makes this a uniquely different science and understanding of the client.
Yeah.
Financial psychology will also ask that you look at yourself as an advisor and the influence that you're having on that
Mm.
relationship, which again makes it uniquely different. What are you bringing into that conversation as well?
Right. Okay, that's so interesting because I was thinking financial psychology was behavioral finance. So I'm really glad that you explained the difference there.
Of course.
It's super helpful. I just to jump in,
Yeah.
I Emily has also educated me on a lot of the delineations between some of the very topical words, and the only thing that I would put out there is that I feel like most folks are doing a lot of these things today just in normal practice. The way that they engage
Mm.
with people
Mhm.
is most of the time the way that they're also engaging with their clients and building relationships, and so there's at least on for me there was a stigma around like, okay, well, is this financial psychology, is this psychology of financial planning,
Right.
is this BFI? Is this like what am I doing here? And I'd say it's definitely a little bit easier to understand than I think there is like this wall of like a shroud around some of these different words that are
Mhm.
being used. But
Mhm. So one thing I pulled from that report was that 67% of portal power users, so I'm guessing that's that 17% you mentioned earlier, who are about fintech and psychology. Is that right?
So portal power users is going to point to just the technology aspect of it, saying that
Okay.
they are using the technology. Well, when they have access to the technology,
Mhm.
they're using it and their clients are consistently engaging in it. So we're seeing
Got
it
it.
kind of notch up. And that's, if you're thinking about that as a questionnaire, you're saying yes to all three of those. And that moves you into what is considered tech forward.
Okay. So out of those people, or yeah, out of
Yep.
those, 67% reported increased client referrals. But I mean, if you just read it, it's like whatever. But if you actually think about it, 67%, like that is a huge number. Like, and that's not an increase. That's like referrals in general. Like, that's big.
Yeah, which is really cool to think about, right? Because if you're somebody who is a little iffy on this all sounds really great. I'm
Yeah.
here for client satisfaction, of course. Love that for my clients, but I'm also interested in the bottom line. Thinking about loyalty and retention and referrals, that is a direct hit to the bottom line.
Yeah.
There's also some research out there that isn't ours, but is also suggesting that as you get this deeper client engagement through technology, and through elements of financial psychology, that current clients are also revealing more assets. So one of the greatest
Mm.
blind spots for an advisor is assets held away. And so they're
Hmm.
actually feeling that, hey, you're engaged in this relationship. I've got some money over here that for one reason or another I haven't revealed or talked about, but I feel as though I want to tell you about that now. So when we think about this, we often apply it to pipeline clients or new clients coming in, which, yes, absolutely. But thinking about the current clients that you're also serving, this research and the outcomes is still very impactful.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, most advisors report that they build their business through client referrals. So the idea that you can increase that number is meaning basically you can increase your clients. So
Right.
it's very
Exactly.
exciting.
Yeah.
Um, Regarding fintech, what kinds of fintech are advisors using? And what do you see coming down the pipeline in the future?
Now I have to say the AI.
You do.
The For the former though, there's, well, number one, it is a daunting task, I think, for especially for an RAA that has complete choice over what they're using, how they're integrating pieces together. If you think about, the intersection of a CRM system, a portfolio tool, a performance tool, potentially separately, a financial planning tool, a document storage solution, and how to integrate all of those things together, it there's a lot there.
Hmm.
And I'd say evaluate whatever relationships or affiliations you have first and figure out where you may get discounts. I'll shout out our selfishly our FBA e-money discount. But there's a lot out there. And to the latter question, I think that I don't think any of the pieces of technology that exist today as part of a tech stack are going anywhere.
Hmm.
I think that some of the processes may be eliminated or cut down or made shorter or more effective, more efficient because of this ability to mine data so much faster.
Mm.
So I envision pieces of some of the back office stuff being
Mhm.
a little bit more automated, but still having a similar front end experience for both the financial professional and for the end client.
Yeah, yeah. You mentioned how there's so much out there to pick from. How can an advisor pick the right tech for their clients? I mean, it doesn't even matter. And so, what I mean is there a wrong tech out there? Like maybe younger clients prefer web based, and older clients prefer an app, or I don't know, something that I'm not thinking of. Have you found anything around that?
A little bit. I'd say the only wrong decision you can make is buying or purchasing, paying for a technology that you don't use.
Mm-hmm.
That would be the number one. Probably don't go down that path. But other than that, I'd say figure out what the niche market is, like what
Mm,
clientele you're trying to target, who you help the most or who you engage with, build the best relationships with, and then evaluate the technology that will get you there either the most
mm,
effectively or to the most customized experience value. Again, it's all about what you're delivering to your clients, because they're including e-money, many of the technologies we overlap all over the place too.
mm,
So while e-money is defined as a
mhm.
financial planning platform, we do, as we talked about, we have a client portal, we have some marketing stuff, we have aggregation, and that holds true across many
Yeah.
of the other pieces. So I'd say just go through the actual exercise of sitting down and evaluating what the technologies already have
Mm,
do,
mhm.
and then figure out where and if there's opportunities to cut the stack down or integrate a little bit more for efficiency effectiveness.
How some of my peers, which would be like financial marketing, right? We've had this discussion among us that it's like after you pick a project management software, you're stuck, right? Because moving it over is a huge undertaking. Would you say it's the same for fintech? Like after you're in, or is it easier to kind of bounce between the two or three?
Uh, I, there is definitely still high switching costs.
Yeah.
Maybe not to the nature, the level of a project management tool, just because it's so customly built there,
Right.
where a lot of the planning data is, and or just like account data is
Mhm.
regularly available. So there's always ways out and around. It does take a decent amount of work to lift and shift, just because the financial planning tools, we all have a little bit different ways of thinking about
Mm.
planning and how
Mhm.
we gather data, how we input data, how we output data. So even from uh, the purely manual transition of some of that information, but also from like the practice management and experience standpoint, making the change in for the clients, I think there's still a decently high switching cost.
Yeah, something else that you said that I'd like to point out for the audience is you said if you have a niche, like you can pick software that fits them. And I think that's so important because we talk about in marketing how niche makes it so much easier because you can target a very specific person or avatar. And it sounds like fintech is very similar. Not only is it going to make it easier for you to market your brand, but it sounds like you're going to save money in the long run because you're going to pick the tech that actually fits your audience. So there's just a little tidbit for our audience to encourage them to niche down.
Saying no to clients is okay.
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about how much training should be done when a fintech is introduced to into a firm, and does that relate to the client's satisfaction?
There is definitely a decently high learning curve for all tech tools, especially for those that are newer to the industry and newer to financial planning. So you're learning the concepts of financial planning at the same time as you're learning how to implement those concepts into the
Mhm.
technology. Um, we have a total training program, both e-based
Mm,
and one-on-one coaching. Uh, I think the total estimated time to get somebody through all of that is probably like 10 hours to get started, and that'll
okay.
get you
And that's for the
navigational
client side,
proficiency
or
and
is that the internal team?
just for the internal team.
Okay.
So, but that is the foundation of success for sure. And
Mm-hmm.
I think the most important part is it's definitely getting a baseline understanding of how the system works. It's also implementing the technology as part of your standard processes and communicating it as part of the value that you're delivering as part of the engagement. I think
Mm-hmm.
I talk a lot about the advice value stack, but
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of commoditized services, and tech is an easy one to point to as a tangible piece of the relationship or what the client's paying
Mm,
for outside of the investment management, potentially some of the financial planning deliverables and some of the other pieces. But
right.
training is definitely required.
Okay, you just mentioned some some documentation, it sounds like. So if there's a link, let me know what it is, and I'll add that to the comments for on the streams after. Okay, fintech. It can be great. It can build that client relationship, but what about when something goes wrong? How should an advisor respond to the event that will put their clients at ease? Like, hey, I mean, yes, we're providing this, but it's also separate from us.
Yeah. So we definitely are completely white labeled, or that at least the
Mhm.
idea is that no financial professional, actually no client, knows that they're on eMoney's technology, and it's
Mm.
whatever,
Mhm.
your financial portal or your financial pal or whatever the firm wants to brand it as. Um,
Yeah.
from a service standpoint, I think setting expectations is the most important part. Uh, I'd say the one piece that we all
Mhm.
basically all financial technology get dinged on is aggregation. And
Mm.
it is a lot of work, right? Like, I
Mhm.
managing my own portal, when I have to change my password bi-monthly on some of my institution sites, yeah, I forget to go to my own eMoney one and update my password.
Right.
So creating that expectation with the clients, I think it'll help you with like half, hopefully half. The other
Yeah.
ones, it's definitely education, and again, like circling back to, hey, this is what this tool is for,
Mhm.
and there's also these other features and things that I can help you walk through and how it works or what the benefit is, but making sure that, again, you always just circle back to this fact that it's like, this is the most valuable piece of this, is that it's a communication tool of our
Mm.
financial planning relationship,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
obviously some of the other troubleshooting that comes along with that.
Yeah. Um, okay, so your research talks about power portal users, which let me tell you, that is a tongue twister.
Great.
It talks about them having over 40% of clients using the portal.
Mhm.
So let's say I'm an advisor and I'm under that number. Maybe I'm way under that number. Maybe only 10% of my clients are using the portal. What are some methods of increasing that number?
Great question, because we have this really great research that says, hey, if you engage in technology, here are the benefits and the outcomes of it.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're not engaging in that technology, or if your clients aren't hooked on that technology, then these outcomes that we're citing, they're not as impactful, right? Because we
Right.
don't have the engagement. So the advisor is going to be really key in getting the client to log into the portal, to
Mm.
understand the value of the portal, to understand how to use the portal. And there are kind of several different ways. But if we're taking it from this financial psychology lens, first and foremost, use the client portal to speak to the client's why. Speak to them
Mm.
about what's important to them and what they can utilize the portal to help identify. Use that technology as the access point. So, one of the questions in our onboarding is, what keeps you up at night? Understanding that people have their individual financial stresses or anxiety, if it's something that tends to be recurrent, we can use the client portal to help settle some of those questions that they may have.
Mm.
You can log in when you aren't inside of an advisor meeting, either annually or quarterly or whatever that service looks like for you. You can use the client portal as a way to log in and see your financial life live. You
Mm.
may be able to settle some of those questions or curiosities just by logging in and seeing it. Because
Mhm.
if you think about it, even to Connor's point, I mean, most of us have accounts one place or another. And part of helping to reduce some of that feeling of stress or anxiety is the fact that I can see it all in one place.
Yeah.
Um, so being able to do that, but also being able to then contact your advisor through the client portal to use it as a communication piece for them,
Mm.
um, and making sure that the advisor brings this up throughout the client relationship. So it's not just when you're engaging with them for the first time or the first several times, it's checking back in with them and saying, hey, you could utilize the client portal, and showing them that, right? Showing them the
Mm.
visualization that
Yeah.
um, is available inside of the portal is also going to be important, because we have to essentially be the educator there and get
Right.
them to recognize what is sitting inside of the client portal.
Yeah. I mean, I I don't know what all is available through the fintech, right? But I imagine a lot and maybe some graphs. that could even be something that the advisor is using in their meetings, right? Like pulling it up and being, hey, I pulled this up from blah, 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 fintech.
Yeah.
And you can do this when you're at home as well, or whatever it might be.
Yeah, I think going back to your question about training, Callie,
Yeah.
that is probably the easiest place to start, and I wouldn't even call it training. It's basically just explaining some of the value, is walking clients through their portal in some of those first meetings and explaining like, hey, let's add that first connection. Let me show you how to add documents to your vault. Let me show you how the spending
Right.
piece works, or whatever features that they want to roll out to that individual client. And then you're delivering the value, breaking down barriers to resistance of using it. You're also starting to get them set up and showing that it is easy to actually go through some of that stuff. And then obviously
Yeah.
we have all of the content and things online where clients can do a little self-service, or as much as we
Right.
can try and lead them to water there.
Right. Exactly. All right, let's talk about marketing a little bit. I mean, already my brain's going on like all the drip campaigns that I could create around what you can do. Um, should advisors advertise the fintech they use to prospects?
Definitely.
Yes.
Uh, Short answer, yes. I
Have you
It's a lot.
found that it is a lot? Have you found that clients have an affinity for specific fintech and actually choose an advisor based on, oh, they use e-money, so I'm going to work with them?
I'd say it's few and far between. I'd say there have been a handful of clients that their advisor had talked about e-money as their portal, like they branded it as
Mhm.
e-money, which again is not a recommended path. But we've we've had a few. But
Yeah.
back to your first question, I definitely, it is part of what you're offering clients. Whether
Mhm.
you actually explain it or whether you separately charge for it, those are completely, separate questions. But I do think it you spend a lot of time and effort building, showing, servicing.
Yeah.
It should definitely be something that's part of your communication, both to prospective clients and existing ones.
Yeah. Um, Great answer. Did you say that it depends on age too? Like, are some clients adverse to using fintech?
Some are.
There's been a
I
little
don't
bit
know.
of research around it, but kind of generally speaking, we do tend to think that maybe some of our older generations don't want to be as involved in technology or maybe a little bit more resistant to it.
Mhm.
That's not necessarily true in all cases. A lot of it comes back to exactly what Connor was talking about in training the advisor, but
Mm.
also to a certain extent training the client to show them here's
Mhm.
how you do it, right? Like let's make this a little less scary and a little less complicated and show you the direct path, especially of what's important to them. And then you can expand that based off of, their questions or whatever you feel is appropriate as the advisor. But reducing or breaking down that barrier of
Yeah.
technology is going to be really important.
Yeah.
And that's to any generation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Our
I
higher use
Yeah.
our highest users of the portal are either millennials or those that are about to retire.
Mm.
So there is a large
Interesting.
gap in there, and it varies based off of
Sure.
the engineering type clients, or those that don't use any technology, or those that use a ton.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
it makes sense. So aligning it with their kind of their why, as Emily was talking about earlier. If you align the portal's features with the client's why and how we're getting there,
Mm.
then you get some more effective and more valuable use of the tech.
Yeah. Any suggestions on how an advisor can find the client's why?
Using the financial psychology actions, asking
Mm.
them about their values, asking them about previous experiences with money, asking them questions that are a little bit more open ended, like what type of financial legacy do you want to leave, if any? What does that
Mhm.
look like? Ask us something really open ended, like tell me about your family, reducing assumptions that somebody is in a heterosexual,
Mm.
traditional relationship. So
Right.
opening that up, um, in addition to letting them lead their own story. So tell me more.
Mhm.
I would love to. Is there anything that I missed in there? Making sure that we don't make the assumption that we've already gathered all of the information, that they feel as though they have offered it up to us.
Right.
So allow them to lead that, and they will often start to tell you their why throughout their own personal journey with money.
Mm. I have this strong memory of when I was working internally at a financial firm, and an advisor came out and was telling us that they had like this client who was 80 something years old, and I think it was maybe a document they needed to sign or something they needed to upload. And while they were in the meeting, he got his phone out and he did it right there. And they were just like shocked because like I he did it right there. And usually when they're that age, you like have to print out the papers for them to sign, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, back to what you said, never make assumptions because you
Yep.
never know.
Hey,
Absolutely.
I finally got my my grandfather on Venmo this weekend, so we're
Wow.
getting there.
There you go.
Now let's talk about e-money specifically, because I know that there's like the lead generation aspect because I've put it on websites via assessments. But in this conversation and on the website, it looks like you're offering a lot more than just lead gen. You have a portal among, I don't know, a plethora of items. So tell us, what does e-money offer?
So eMoney is we like to call ourselves a total platform. It is a
Mhm.
financial planning first platform. So the full spectrum planning is definitely the foundation of everything that happens inside the tool. That's supplemented with the aggregation. So aggregation outside accounts, but and inside accounts. And then as you think about further outside of the planning relationship, there is the client portal, which is customizable per household. That includes a vault. So that is a secure document storage solution that isn't requiring of having planning tools or the client portal. And then we also have a marketing tool, which is primarily content
Mhm.
around financial
Mm.
planning and fintech. Uh,
Mhm.
so there are quite a few ways to use the tool, and I'd say for those that I just scared away by saying how much we do, most people only use about 40 to 50% of the features that are offered throughout the platform, and that's the
Are
perfect amount for them.
are there packages or piecemeal? Like, am I selecting each item I'm interested in, or is it like all or nothing, baby?
There's a few different levels of packages and a few different levels
Okay.
of licenses for advisor level and like paraplanner support, administrative staff.
Hmm. Here's a question because I'm having flashbacks. You're talking about aggregation, and in past life, I had to do investment summaries and wanted to pull my hair out because you had to go and like, when an account is somewhere and then you move it to um, a new account, or held somewhere else. When I do the investment summary, I have to go all the way back to the initial sum that they invested. Does eMoney have something that does that? Tell
If
me.
it's an if it's an aggregated account, you definitely can. So
Okay.
we'll maintain the account history from the time that it's originally linked, regardless of where it's linked to. So if you change custodians of the account or it literally just moves from somewhere else, then that's all tracked within the tool.
That alone could save so many headaches. So that's great. So we've got this QR code up for our audience. So if you're watching, you can go check out all these different um, tech that eMoney has available. Just scan the QR code. Thank you, Emily and Connor. This was so insightful, and I really appreciate your time and sharing with us.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you, Cal.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. If you need assistance implementing a fintech into your firm or your firm communications, give us a call because guess what? We specialize in custom content and websites. And as I mentioned earlier, I have put the eMoney lead gen into a website before. If you're investing in this fintech, then you want to make sure that your clients know it's available and how to use it. And we can help you create a campaign to do just that. Speaking of campaigns, have you signed up for our newsletter? It comes out every Thursday to keep you savvy about marketing. Again, just scan the QR code, it'll take you right to the sign up. And join us next Monday to talk about marketing a lifestyle, not your services, because that's what you're selling. We'll be talking with the bright, fun, and lovable Kim Skirmer, a financial advisor, business coach. She's sure to be a treat and you won't want to miss it. She's just so bright and wonderful. So join us next Monday, same time as always, at noon Central. Until then, have a great week.